Hi. Okay. Hi, Reagan. Oh, this is so exciting. Okay, Alex will use the chat. Monitor will monitor the chat for questions.
Hi.
Hi, Alex, can you see me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, funny. I can't see myself. I just see a really nice profile picture. So I want to test one thing before we get started as everyone enters the chat. I want to see if I can share my screen. So you let me know if you can see my screen, okay?
Okay.
Okay. It says, gosh, this is so exciting, Alex.
It is so exciting.
I might have to shut the door just so that way you can't hear our echo. Okay, hold on 1 second.
Oh, Reagan is so nice.
You're so sweet. Thank you. I felt so pretty. I put on my one of my favorite sweaters for the occasion. Okay, choose what you want to share. I want to share my entire screen. Okay. Okay. So Alex and we logged in about an hour ago to test everything out, and I think we figured Demio out. I think we have it down. But everyone who's just coming in, welcome. My name is Brittany. This is Alex.
Hi.
We're so excited to be offering a free Aftershoot Masterclass today. This is the first mentorship mini of its kind. It really was designed to be something where we could all come together, learn something, and hopefully have a positive improvement on your businesses. We've been using Aftershoot for about 2 years now, and we've just been lucky enough to become ambassadors of the program, which is so cool. And it's so awesome that we can help other people hopefully get over that learning curve that comes with Aftershoot. It's not the most user-friendly right away, but once you get into a flow with the program, it's pretty cool. So I'm going to just confirm, Alex, you can see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. This meeting, if you have to drop for any reason, I think it'll be about 20 minutes after shoot tutorial, and then I wanted to leave about 40 minutes for open Q&A. So if you're here with us live, I want you to feel so comfortable to ask anything along the way. This is Demio, which is kind of like a big presentation platform. So Alex and I are on stage, and so you'll see us. Maybe in the future, we'll offer more space for other people on stage, but for now, we're going to have everyone use the chat for any questions. If it's something that's relevant to what we're talking about in that moment, we'll definitely address it and answer it along the way. But otherwise, we're going to wait to the end for like the big open Q&A. So just to kick everybody off, as you enter the chat, I'm going to put in the questions like, do you use Aftershoot now, or are you interested in learning about it because it's something new to you? So what do you think, Alex? Should I say like, what is your relationship with Aftershoot now?
That's a good way to put it.
What is your relationship? Familiarity? Is the familiarity better? Familiarity with Aftershoot.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Sometimes I get nervous when I'm typing in front of other people. I spell things wrong. What is your familiarity with Aftershoot? Have you used it before? Love it? Question mark. Loathe it. Okay. Drop any questions here in the chat. Awesome. And this will be, if you have to drop for any reason, you will also be receiving a replay link of the whole meeting. So if you can only join us for a little bit and then you want to revisit this information later, I will be sending that out to everyone who registered. So don't feel like you have to stick around if you really have something going on. But otherwise, I'm so excited that we get to hang out. Such an honor that we get to have this time together. So let's exit here and start in on Aftershoot. Because I'm sharing my screen, Alex, I can't see the chat, so you'll have to interrupt me at any point if it's important.
For
But
sure.
otherwise, I'm just going to kind of flow, and
Okay.
we'll see where it goes. But Aftershoot is a culling and editing software. It is an AI-assisted editing and culling software. So the way that we like to use it is we will allow Aftershoot to process the first pass of our data, and then we come in, we do our own cull inside of Aftershoot. Then we this year started using AI editing through Aftershoot as well. So that way our data, our beautiful pictures, aren't going into our Lightroom until they have been culled twice, once by AI, once by us as humans, maybe twice by us, Alex. Sometimes like you cull once and then I'll even take a look at it.
Yeah.
And then we have the edit already applied. So what we'll go through today is just that flow. I'll show you exactly what it looks like to take a folder of photos through the culling. I'll show you more about the color coding and different things. And then I'll also show you what that edit profile looks like. For the editing side of Aftershoot to work, it is something you have to set up with 2,500 of your already edited images. I highly recommend doing this. We used Aftershoot for almost a full year just for culling, and we loved it, but we didn't have 2,500 fully edited images yet that we loved. So if you're in between editing styles right now, that might not be the next thing for you to do. It might just be a program for culling. But if you have all of those catalogs ready to go, you feel really confident in your editing style, I highly recommend setting up that editing profile. I won't be able to show you setting up the editing profile today just because we already have that in the system. If that's something you want help with, please let us know and we can definitely focus on that. But otherwise, today we're going to really focus on the culling.
Yep.
I'll show you the editing and then we'll jump into Lightroom so you can see how good it is. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So first things first, I want to show you what Aftershoot looks like from like the home base standpoint. When you come in to your dashboard, this is what it's going to look like. There's this area right here where you can add a new album. And as you scroll, these are all of the albums that Alex and I have already processed. There are a lot of things to take in here. So I want to go as slow as possible, but I also want to make sure that I value your time. So I just wanted to show you that these are just the little stages of each of the galleries. So you can see that this has been imported, this has been culled, this little, it looks like almost like an artist palette of color.
Yeah.
That's the editing. And then the little green box with the arrow shooting up means that this has been taken over to Lightroom. So that's kind of like a progress bar, which is really cool. The names that pop up here are the names of your folder. So they call it an album, but truly it's the folder that would be inside of your SSD or on your hard drive. The folder that we're going to go through today is local to my hard drive. But if I wanted to go into an SSD and pull something from there, it's the same process. You're just mapping where that data is going to go. So once I click to import to this folder, it's going to ask you if you're importing from a catalog or if you're going to import from a folder. So I'm going to press raw JPEG, and this is where your mapping begins. You're going to find where that location of the folder is. If it's an SSD, you would click on that SSD. For me, I'm going to be working from the desktop. So I'll show you what that looks like. So I would map it to my desktop. Our desktop is under Brex Hall. We put Brittany and Alex together and we made Brex Hall. And then from there, desktop. And then from here, the folder I'm working with is the Valentine's Day shoot that we did. I hope you don't mind, Alex. I just wanted to go play with those again.
For sure.
So I press import from folder. And this is where Aftershoot's waking up the magical unicorns. It's pulling all of the data and it's beginning to understand, like, what are we doing today? So this is the import. Then you press cull. From here, we're going to start our cull on the right-hand side. If you are familiar with Aftershoot and you've worked with this before, this is one thing that I think is really important to set up, because if you don't change the parameters of the cull, you might end up with a really big cull. You might feel like Aftershoot didn't really make a ton of selections for you. So underneath Start Culling, you're going to be able to customize this. And I'm going to give you our recommendation. So the first thing is it's an AI automatic culling. So you click on that, and then this new box pops up. Of course, you can categorize your stuff. So let's say this is portraits and headshots. Instead of doing just the automated AI cull, I encourage you to set up a customized AI cull. This is probably one of the most valuable parts of this masterclass today, because we felt like the first time we did culling inside of Aftershoot, it selected so many photos. So our goal was to find a way for Aftershoot to select less and be more decisive. And these are the settings that we set up inside of this customized AI cull in order for it to do that. So let's just walk through this together. The first part is highlight photos. You might be one of the photographers who offers a preview. And a next day preview, or 2 days, 1 week, whatever, is awesome. So you can actually have AI pick out the best images and we'll put them into your selected photos. One thing I love about Aftershoot is there's always little notes. So feel free to, like, as you poke around, make sure you're reading those because it's going to tell you what's going on. I turn off highlight photos because I do believe when I'm going through, I can make a better story just as an artist and as a human. I feel like I have a better understanding of what I want in that highlight versus if I turned on that highlights, it might select too many highlights. And your girl loves a next day preview. I can't do 300 next day previews. That's a lot. So I
Never
turned
again.
we have done that once. What was the biggest one you think? Like 350?
Yeah, I think it was the end of September last year.
Paula. We love Paula. So the next part, this is the most valuable part, the duplicate photos. So the way that this works is AI is going to be grouping your pictures together, and the more similar they are, the more you want them to be like grouped into a giant group. And when it comes to the duplicates, you want them to have larger groups with less selections versus if you were to slide this down, if it was smaller groups, it's not going to pull together as many like images. It's going to create smaller groups. So therefore, you're going to have more selections because AI is just grouping together your similar photos and then picking the best one. Now, I love leaving this on large groups because I'm telling AI I want the least amount of groups and I want them to be the biggest because I want AI to choose the best of the biggest group. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. From there, you can either carrot that up or carrot that down. So if you come in here and it just shows this toggle, you just press that customized thing to bring the slider out. Then I like to turn on blurry photo detection. This is because every once in a while during a shoot, I will slow my shutter down and be intentional, and I will have photos that are intentionally blurry. I don't necessarily want AI to cull them out. I want to put them into this separate section of blurry photos detected. So that way, when I'm culling through later, I can go and find those and I can specifically remember, like, okay, I want to go look at my creative pictures. So I do turn that on. This also will pick up on your normal photos if you ended up like just having a slower shutter speed and there is a little bit of blur to it. So I do like having blurry photos detection turned on because that's going to help AI to make that decision of like, that one's a little more crisp, that one's a little more blurry. Okay, I'm going to send blurry where it belongs and I'm going to try to focus on the crisp ones. Now, the last part is the closed eye detection. I do turn that on. You can experiment with all of these, of course. I think the most valuable part is the duplicate part, but the closed eye detection, of course, there are beautiful pictures that we take sometimes where our eyes are naturally closed. It's not that we don't want that picture. It's just that that was what the moment was. So I turn that on and I will intentionally go through the blurry eye photos and I will intentionally go through the closed eye part as well. I just like turning that on because I like to make sure that if there is a grouping of photos and one of them they're blinking, it's going to send it to that purple category. Color coding is everything inside of Aftershoot. I will say it's overwhelming, the colors at first, but once you get to know what all of the colors mean, it's really, really helpful. So this is the first place I want to hang out. Alex, are there any questions on this so far, or are we going to keep going?
I really think you're crushing it so far, Britt.
Thanks, Al. So start culling. From here, this is where they are going to give you a progress bar up in the right-hand corner. What's really interesting is Aftershoot has different speeds based on your computing power. I know this for a fact because we once had our main work computer was an older laptop. It was still a Mac, but it was just an older, slower computer. And so we brought Aftershoot in and we were like, okay, it's pretty good. It takes a minute, but it's great. And then we got a new computer and Alex and I were losing our mind. We were like, this just takes no time at all. You truly can set this and then walk away, go do anything else. Maybe you're working on something else and you can just switch task, but you basically set up the culling and then over here is our dashboard for the future. So what I'm going to do in the meantime is I'm going to come back over to the chat, Alex. Let me see if I can figure it out. And then we can hang out for a second.
Yeah, one of the cool things about Aftershoot is if you are to walk away and go take your puppy out for a walk, or maybe just go out for a walk with your partner, it actually emails you when the gallery is done and culled, and it tells you how many it's selected, and then now it's on your list and you can come back and do it when you're ready.
Exactly. Even just going for a nice hot girl walk, it's such a cool way to experience this element of culling, because for so much of our business, culling was the bane of our existence, having to make those decisions. But I feel like Aftershoot and truly any culling software in general, having a sorting software has made culling so much more enjoyable. I love the element of the AI assistant. I just think that's nice to get a little email to come back when it's done. Here we are getting started. So the culling is in progress. I like reading their little notes because I think they're funny. So it says like getting our ingredients ready. In a little bit, it'll say like waking up the magical unicorns. That's really fun. I showed Aftershoot to my 4-year-old sister, Riley, and she was so excited about the unicorns. So now she's like, oh, we're waking up the magical unicorns. It's just really fun to show her this stuff. But yeah, so now it looks like it's almost done.
There it is.
I know. I wanted to try to pick a folder that was like bigger, but not like so massive. For a wedding day, Alex, how long do you think Aftershoot takes to cull? Like, let's say 5 to 6,000 images.
Yeah, I would say when you have your parameters set to where you like them and you kind of made the recipe and then you let Aftershoot cook, I would say it's maybe like 25 to 35 minutes. But like Britt said, it does depend on, I think it also depends on your internet connection, Britt. I'm not
True.
exactly positive on that.
I think you're
but,
right.
But the CPU GPU combo is going to really be your money maker, your time saver.
It's
So
helpful. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so that was for this gallery, it was like 3 minutes probably.
Yeah, it's helpful to close other programs when you're running Aftershoot. It's just like Lightroom. If you want your Lightroom to be super zippy and fast, close all of the other programs you're not using, even your, your internet browsers. It just helps these things to basically to focus on what it needs to focus on instead of trying to spread the power everywhere. Are you laughing at this picture right here?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
No,
sad.
no. I'm laughing at the picture of your shoes and the dress. They're like, this is a creative angle. I like it.
Yeah, that was me setting up my settings. There's
I
my
know.
toes. I hope you're not feet phobic. That would be terrible. Trigger warning, Brittany's feet are showing up soon.
T-dub.
So we are here. We've made it to our cull. You can see up here at the progress bar that the culling is complete. There's a couple of things I want to take you through just on a little tour if this is a program that you're like still learning. So if it's stuff you already know, I'm sorry if it feels redundant. I just want to be thorough. Up here at the top, it will show how many images that Aftershoot selected. It also shows that right here under green, selected 134. This 5-star reading on the far right tells me that Aftershoot believed that these are the best of the best. Now, when you go through, you're going to find different chunks like this grouping. There are 9 similar images found, and they chose this fun one of me walking away. So what you get to do is you get to come in with your big, beautiful human brain, and you get to decide, do I agree or disagree with the AI? That's truly what Aftershoot can do for you. A lot of people will take this cull, this 134 photos, and they'll just send it right to Lightroom. And there is nothing wrong with that. You are welcome to do Aftershoot however you want to. But one of the things that made us feel a little trepidatious about that is there are moments where maybe in this grouping, this is a great example, I might prefer, one of the other pictures. So if you just trust AI blindly, obviously you'll save much more time, right? I'm asking you to do that second cull inside of Aftershoot, you will save time, but you will also kind of take on that bag of trust issues because you won't know if Aftershoot selected all of your best images. One thing I want to mention too is I know that there is another way where you can 5-star your images right in your camera and then bring that data. It's like metadata over to Aftershoot. We haven't learned how to do that yet. We just haven't done it. So I'm going to be culling, thinking that none of these photos have been rated yet, that I'm just bringing them into Aftershoot, and I'm going to start that culling process with Aftershoot. If you're one of the beautiful Earth Angels who knows how to do that and you want to teach us, that would be really cool. Just like a funny reel that I saw sometime. Now, this is the 5-star selected ones for Aftershoot. That means that those are the ones that AI loves. My selections is something that's typically going to be empty. It's going to say 0 to begin. But I think that Aftershoot's smart enough to know that I have already culled this gallery, Alex. It caught me.
I know. I noticed that too.
So typically that's going to be 0, and I'll show you why, and we'll go through and I'll show you exactly how to set your my selections. But I want to take you on the rest of the tour. So here's where you'll find those red blurred, and then here's where you'll find the closed eye. Now, this is, again, closed eye is like 1 star out of 5 because they believe that if your eyes are closed, it's not that good of a photo. And the blurry ones are the ones where the shutter speed was maybe a little bit lower. It feels softer. The selected are the ones that AI is like, hey, this is the best of the best. I want you to go through this. So what you get to do if you want to try our way of doing it, where you let AI do part 1, then you as the human do part 2, you're going to be clicking on selected, and then you're going to be going through the selected. And then when you go through selected and you're choosing which ones you believe are best, the key on your keyboard that you're pressing is D. That's how you make a selection. To unselect something, it's the same key. You press D again. So let's go through this cull together. Click on the first photo, and this new window pops up. Sorry again about the feet. I'll go to the next one. When you go to your first photo, you're going to notice a couple of fun things. Your settings are up here on the left, which I think is really valuable to be able to see your settings right away. That's one thing I love about culling softwares is you can learn as you're culling. You can look at how the photo turned out, and then you can quickly see, okay, it does feel a little bit soft. I can see that my shutter speed was 1/160, and you can start to put together why things look the way they look. You can also, we have zoom lenses for this photo shoot. So I can say, wow, I really like the way this one turned out. I can look over and I can even see the focal length that my zoom was at. So if I'm really like jiving with some photos and realize, man, I really like 45 millimeters, it's cool to have that data available to you. Over on the right is the second most valuable part of Aftershoot, in my opinion, which is that quick eye display, or they call it key faces. The program is going to zoom in on the human faces inside of every photo and quickly on the right show you, are their eyes open and what does that look like? This is also really nice because instead of having to zoom in manually, which you can do with the space bar to see if things are crisp, you have that little key face readout on the right. So again, the space bar zooms you in. If you do it 4 times, it zooms you all the way back out. You have your key face on the right. This is so valuable when you're thinking about a big group of a big group of people in one picture. You can quickly see all of the different little faces. If I zoom you forward for a second, if there are 2 faces in the frame, it will show you 2 different key faces. So that's a really cool feature. I know that Narrative Select has something like that. That's so awesome. I don't think Photo Mechanic has anything like that. So that's one really cool part of Aftershoot. Now, this is where the learning curve starts. So hang with me here. On the bottom right, you'll see where it says duplicates. This is our group. Inside of this group, you would use your up or down arrow key with probably your right hand, and that is how you can toggle between the two and decide which one you like the most. Now, to get through our whole gallery and to review all 134 selected images, you would use your left and right arrow key to navigate over or back. So what's really cool is you can see their selections, but you can also go through what they had to decide on. So that way you can see the full gallery without having to look at all of the images in your progress bar at the bottom. So if we come down here, follow my cursor with me. If you look at this progress bar, this is your whole gallery that Aftershoot selected. So these are 134 images. Whereas as you go through with your left and right arrow key, you're going to come across your groupings. Let's see if we can find one. And then on the right, you use your up and down arrow key to review all of the photos in that group. So this can start to feel a little overwhelming or a little confusing because you're going left and right, but also up and down. But I really think that it's just a matter of practice. The more that you work in the program, the easier that becomes like muscle memory. Your right hand is going to be working overtime, going left to right to get from one image to the next, but really to get from one group to the next. But then maybe your middle finger is going to be going up and down on those arrow keys to look through these groupings. So we've now reached a new color. I want to talk a little bit about yellow. Yellow is Aftershoot's way of saying, these are fine images. I just felt like the green was the best. So the yellow is all of the things I think you should still look at as a human coming through for the second part of the cull, because there might be some reason why you would prefer this image to the green one that Aftershoot selected. So I also love that when you're going through and making your selections, you are able to maybe unselect some of the images that Aftershoot selected. So for example, Aftershoot loved this image of me walking away. I don't need that image. So I'm just going to press D and it will remove that from my selections. And then as we navigate to the right with our keyboard, I will be able to go with my up and down arrow through each grouping quickly and see my key faces. I'll be able to see my different body language. I'll be able to quickly decide, okay, which one do I want to keep and why? And the colors are truly only there because Aftershoot felt like, for red, for example, Aftershoot felt this photo was a little blurry. It's a little soft. I was moving and my shutter speed is 1/160. So when Aftershoot was looking at the overall grouping of 9 or 8 images, it felt like this was the best image. I'm looking straight forward. It's the crispest of them all. That felt like a weird word to say. Crisp. This was the most crisp image. And I can either agree or disagree. So I would say I agree. I like this image. I want it. But then as I went down, I also love her. So even though Aftershoot felt like this was a blurry photo, I pressed D and I selected that and added it to my selections. And you get to do that throughout the whole gallery. So I'm going to unselect this one because maybe I don't need that one. I'm using the up and down arrow key. And what it will do is it will just loop. If you get to the bottom of that grouping and you're still pressing the down key, just shoots you back up to the top. So let's keep going. I'll keep going to the right. I come to a new grouping. I get to look through all of these. You're so handsome in that.
Oh my God. This was such a fun photo shoot. Like the records.
It's cool. I think they get kind of juicy a little bit further into this, so I got to be careful.
Might happen.
We added in lipstick, which is fun. And what I like about the groupings is this is definitely the same kind of frame. It's the same kind of vibe. But as you can see, while I go through here, there's different like body compositions where I'm either too in the shadow, like this one, for example. I don't need that image when I know that, scroll back up to the top, this one exists. So it's cool. You can quickly see like, what do I like the most? And you can decide why and then keep moving on. I'm notorious for always over selecting when it comes to culling. So Alex is definitely much more talented when it comes to being decisive. What I love about Aftershoot is it has helped me to build on that skill of being decisive, being able to see Aftershoot say like, this one is the one I recommend. If I'm looking at 9 more images that are very, very similar, there are often times where I'm like, yep, you know what, Aftershoot, you're right. And then I'm moving on. So I think that's where Aftershoot will save you time. I think a lot of times they will let Aftershoot do the first cull and then they realize that they should still do that second cull. So they feel like they're still culling and they feel like they're not saving time. But the time saver comes in those little moments of decision making, in my opinion, and then in the editing. So that is basically what we're going to do. We would just go through all of these. I'm using my right hand on my arrow keys, heading to the right. I'm using my left hand on D so I can make selections or I can deselect photos. And then at the end, let's say you go through all of the pictures. You make your way all the way to the end. You come all the way here. And so now I've made my final selection. I'm going to then go back to this view. So switch to grid view, which brings me back to like this dashboard. And by the way, there are customizations up here that you should hang out with as well. This was the loop view, which is what happens when you double click into a picture. There's also this view, which is so you can kind of see a lot of your pictures right next to each other. This is similar to, they call it survey mode, but this is similar to in Lightroom when you select multiple images and then you press the hotkey N and it will pull them all up right next to each other. This is just one more view. So that way, let's say I was having a really hard time deciding what of these pictures was my favorite.
They're really cute.
Yeah, I can put them all next to each other and then I can quickly scan and say, yep, I do really like the green one. I agree. So please make sure to not be scared to click around in here. The more you learn a program, the easier it's going to be for you. Truly, I think that fear or that, I don't even know, that like resistance that you might feel towards Aftershoot just comes down to being unfamiliar with the program itself. This is the last thing I wanted to show is the resize of the grid view. I like this size, but if you wanted, you can make that smaller. If you wanted, you can make that bigger. You have a lot of options on the left. But once we come back to this dashboard, once you are done with your human cull, you now have Aftershoot, you have you, and then you now have only 79 images from that 134 that Aftershoot had selected. So in my mind, I want to do the least amount of culling inside of Lightroom. I want to have the least amount of images to edit once we get into the editing program. So that's where doing more culling inside of Aftershoot will save you more time in the long run, especially if your computer is a little bit slower. If you are sending more images to Lightroom, it's going to take longer building all of those smart previews. So in my mind, if you want to save time editing, you should spend more time culling. Do you agree, Alex? I think you taught me that.
Yes, I do. We just had a question in the chat, so let's just go
course.
over it. Chris asked, once the cull has been completed, can you pull back picture the program may have removed, but you feel they have potential? So that is kind of what you were just explaining a little bit, right?
Yes, exactly, Chris. I love that question because I think often that's the fear that people have with the AI assistant is, oh no, what if they get rid of my most creative photographs? You have the opportunity in that second human cull, you to go back through all of your images. So yes, you're going to be going through Aftershoot's 134 images, but when you click into that on the right side where the grouping exists, where is it? Here it is.
Yep.
That's where you'll see every single one of your images. So even though we only went through 134 selections from Aftershoot, by utilizing that up and down arrow key with your hand on the keyboard, you're now going through every single one of your images and it's just pressing D to select or D to unselect. So let's say that Aftershoot selected this green, but I knew that I liked this one more. It's just a matter of pressing D. And you go through every single image. It's not that Aftershoot is culling them out. They're just color coding them. So for example, you'll see here that this one is red. So it does show up here in this grouping, Chris, but then when I go back to this module, the red ones they all live in here as well, because that was the color grouping that Aftershoot felt those photos needed to be in because they were blurry. There's also the grouping of closed eyes. And then this is the last part that I think is really cool. If you don't want to go through with their cull in mind and you just want to go on a hunt for that one photo that you know was one of your favorites, there is all right here. And this you can filter right here where it says advanced filter. You can filter it by, I was trying to see if I could filter it by date, Alex, or like time. Do you know if it's like, I think it's always in chronological order, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So as long as the timestamp on your camera is correct, this will be in chronological order. And so let's say you're like, I remember during that one series of me alone in front of the tripod, this was my favorite picture. You can use all to access all of your images without having to go look for them in the duplicates. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that Aftershoot is a really awesome resource, and so you don't have to change the rating colors if you don't like one of the images. You can just deselect. Because in the past, if there was a photo I didn't like in the ones they chose as green, I would just change the rating of them. Well, that's a time saver now. Yes, exactly, Reagan.
Good.
Yes.
I'm so glad. It absolutely is. Understanding that the colors are just meant to be like a way for Aftershoot to communicate with you, and the rating is truly just like their way of kind of combining that opinion, right? Oh, this is a 3-star, it's a yellow. Well, what if
Yep.
that yellow is a green 5-star to me, man? I'm just gonna
Yeah.
press D and move on.
Yep. And that's why it's kind of like a collaboration with the program. You get to go through
Beautifully
and you
said.
get to, thank you. Yeah, you get to make your selections, but that's why we recommend going back through and doing that human cull versus just trusting AI. AI is really good, but there's that artistic part of you, the creator, that you want to look at your work, not only to learn, like you mentioned, Brittany, hey, maybe
Mhm.
that was a little too soft, or, the lighting wasn't as good as I thought it was.
Right.
Um, but then you get to make your final selections and move forward on the ones that you really want.
Yeah. Great question. I'm so glad you asked that. Because
Yeah.
if you had to change the rating on each one, that definitely would be an extra step.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so, oh, go ahead.
You're okay.
Okay, that's a good question. So then now that I've come back to my dashboard and I've made my selections and I know what ones I want to be working with in the editing module, I will come back up and I will click on selections and then I'm going to save my changes. You can save your changes multiple times because let's say you started a cull and then you have to walk away because you have something going on. You can
Yep.
save your cull and then always come back to it. Sorry. And then from here, you get to either export your images. So this is going to go straight to Lightroom, but there's no editing on these ones. If you don't have your profile set up already, this is the next step for you. But if you have the editing profile ready to go, you would click on edit. Now, the reason why you have to set up your edit profile first is because it only gives you those options inside of here. And there is the option to go into the Aftershoot editing profile store and you can look at different preloaded profiles that you could either buy or I don't think you can rent. I don't know why I was going to say that. You can buy them, but I think a lot of them are included for free. There's some that are extra priced, but I wanted to experiment before we had our own profile. So I clicked on this Cherie one and then I tested it on some of our images and I didn't really love it, but I don't know how to delete it out of here. So if you know how to do that, that would be great. But otherwise, whatever you set up for your AI profile, it's going to be loaded in here for you. So this is our profile. And it's based on our favorite preset pack by Phil Chester presets. We once were, and I'm not trying to like smack talk at all, but we were once like super hardcore Biba vowels presets. We love Biba and she helped us to start our business. Like I loved that editing style at the time. But then I started to feel like we were really battling true colors so often. And a lot of her presets look really great in California. That's where she's based. We live in Wisconsin. And so a lot of our greens were always a little too yellow. And when I found Phil Chester presets, shout out to my friend Marcy. I hope you're on here. Or sorry, it's Margie. Marley.
It's
I had a
Marley. It's
call this
Marley.
morning with Marcy, so I'm all tore up right now. But Marley, my sweet friend Marley. Hi, Marley. I'm going to send you this replay link so you can laugh at me. She was at a content retreat. We became friends and she let me try some of her Phil Chester presets and it opened the clouds. Like the sun shone down and I was like, we're ready for true to life, authentic colors. So we bought the Phil Chester preset pack, had an entire wedding season with that authentic color profile. And then we brought all of those catalogs into Aftershoot to make this profile. So of course you have a preset to start as a base, but then you make your own tweaks along the way. So this Wedding Chasing Sunsets 2024 profile is very much Phil Chester base with our little tweaks. So in the editing module, you will turn on your editing profile and then you can scroll down and check out some of these extra settings. These are all just different things that you can experiment with. If you want AI to crop for you, you can look at the different, if you want that to be aggressive or loose, if you want that to be a different like cropped size, you can specifically pick like a certain ratio over there, which is great. I like to turn on AI straightening because it does save me time in Lightroom to not need to straighten my stuff. Keep in mind that this stuff is not perfect. AI is still learning. And again, like Alex said, your creativity, you might have gone for a Dutch angle. And so you don't want AI to immediately straighten that. Those are just things that you can play with. One really cool part of Aftershoot is it's continuing to evolve. So one thing that used to not be available that now is AI masking. So you can actually, it's in beta right now, but you can use Aftershoot to mask your images. Let's say I am super, super orange because I did my fake tanning the day before a shoot. And I just know that about this particular gallery. I could turn that on and I could even do my masking before it even gets into Lightroom. And I could maybe like turn down that orange tint in my skin. That's just one example. And the other cool thing that Aftershoot is continuing to roll out is AI retouching. So I am an acne prone skin girly. I have a ton of skin texture. And there is now a new thing that Aftershoot is literally about to launch, if it hasn't already, where I will be able to retouch my skin before I even put it into Lightroom, which I'm just very excited about. I'm curious to see if it's also for like skin texture, like wrinkles and stuff, because I don't want to look like a fresh baby newborn, but I wouldn't mind, taking care of a couple of those
somewhere in the middle.
yeah. I wonder if there's gonna be like sliders or something, but I wouldn't mind not having to like retouch each individual pimple. So I'm excited. Aftershoot continues to put love into the program and to try new things. So that's the cool thing of AI, is it keeps evolving. So anyway, these are
Couple
all
of questions in the chat if you're ready.
Yes.
Okay, Reagan would like to know, would you be willing to share those presets? Are you?
Absolutely. Mine or Phil's, because I can give you anything you need.
Well, I think she's curious, like which pack you like the most, or any type of information like that, or maybe she's asking if we're gonna sell presets. I'm not exactly
So
sure.
sweet. Reagan, there are a couple of packs. I went with his like total pack for $279. He does deals sometimes, but that includes like the super cinematic Daydreamer pack. It also includes the editorial and the essential pack, which are my favorites. Those are just the most true to life ones.
They're just clean.
They're so clean. But now that I'm thinking about it, Alex, we do have a preset pack that we would like to sell in the future with our tweaks, but I do have to support my guy Phil because I love him so much.
For
So
sure.
in order to get you started and get you going, Reagan, I'll tell you about my preset pack when we get into Lightroom.
One more question then.
Yeah, go ahead. Because there's one specific preset inside of one specific pack for Phil that is our entire editing
It's a
style
good
now.
base. Yeah.
It's a good base.
So Liv would like to know, okay,
Hi,
so
Liv.
with that, how might Aftershoot compare to Imagen AI? I feel
Okay.
like they're pretty similar,
Yep.
but as someone who is new to this, I'd struggle to figure out how to use Imagen. Is it Imagen? I haven't tried Aftershoot yet.
Well, good news. You're talking to someone who tried them all. So I definitely am a good resource when it comes to the differences and also just the experience of trying everything, because you just want to learn it. I started with Imagen, and what I did love is that it's very similar to what we're about to do with this editing. You create a profile inside of Imagen, you then apply that profile to your images, and then you get to review it and make tweaks inside of your Lightroom. So the process is the same. What I did not like about it is it prices your edits on image size, not image size, but image amount. So for Aftershoot, it's a one-time payment annually, or it's a monthly payment, and then it's unlimited images, which I can't stress enough how wonderful that is.
Yeah.
The Imagen bill each month could be so different, and there's also just this idea that in Aftershoot, you are going to edit 78 of my images with this editing profile, but I'm still going to cull a few of them out inside of Lightroom. Not that many, but enough that if I was paying for Imagen per image and I ended up editing images, paying for those edits, and then deleting them and not even delivering them, it started to get a little frustrating because there is still that moment in Lightroom where you might take a couple out. So that is one thing. But the one thing that I like about Imagen is that you could come back and re-upload your images after you made your tweaks in Lightroom, so it could continue to learn your profile. I think you can do the same thing in Aftershoot. So I do believe the biggest difference is now. Oh, and also, Alex, I heard from some of my friends that Imagen does culling, because I was going to say that Aftershoot's difference is it offers culling, but I think that Imagen offers culling as well. But I think it's the pricing difference. Getting priced per image is kind of brutal, in my opinion. That was a long answer. I'm sorry.
You did so good.
Okay. Any other questions, or may I continue?
You can certainly continue.
Okay, cool. These are great questions, though.
She said that was so helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I got so excited when AI culling editing entered the chat because we had been spending so much time at like bringing all of our images into Lightroom and then editing and culling everything inside of Lightroom. That just bogs that program down so much. So when I found out about AI, Alex can attest to this, I was just ready for anything. We tried batch AI, we tried Imagen AI, and then now we just fell in love with Aftershoot and they fell in love with us too. So we're just very lucky.
Don't you also feel that the profile in Aftershoot is much more accurate because it needs such a high quantity of your edited images that you're happy with? Whereas I feel like Imagen, we had to change so much all the way through it.
To be fair, yes, Alex, but to be fair, we were in between our editing styles when I was trying out
Okay.
batch AI and when I was trying out Imagen AI. Truly, and I was telling my friend about this because she's very, very organized, much more organized than I am. And she was even like kind of theorizing if you wanted Aftershoot editing profiles to be so accurate each time, you would have a different profile for each season, right? Like we live somewhere
Oh,
with
yeah.
4 different seasons. And so spring greens are going to look very different than winter and
Yeah.
fall and etc. So what she was even saying is I have one generalized preset profile in here, which is kind of like my base no matter what. And
Hmm.
I've at like basically added 2500 at least 2500 images, and Aftershoot's just pulling all of the similarities and creating one general preset. There are still tweaks that we do inside of Lightroom, and at the time that we were trying out all of those other programs, Imagen included, we were in between editing styles, so it felt like the images we were uploading, I'm like, that's a good edit, but it was all over the place. I don't think that I helped the AI program out that much.
You know, you're totally right, because your wedding profile definitely is much more based on the colors that you would traditionally see at a wedding. So your whites are going to
Yeah.
be white, they're not going to be
Yes.
blue. Things like that. Liv has another question if you're
Yes,
ready.
I'm ready.
I actually have another question. I use Photo Mechanic to cull and currently bring into Lightroom CC to edit, but
Cool.
have hoped to involve Imagen or Aftershoot in the process. If I were to
Okay.
use Aftershoot, would you just cull in there too?
Yeah, yes, you will want to use Aftershoot to cull because it's going to save you time in the long run in a couple of different ways. It'll save you time because you can be more decisive, utilize the power of AI helping you to make those choices, but then you won't be bogging. So in Lightroom, have you ever noticed that when you're culling in Lightroom, it takes a long time to get photo to photo before you can even decide like, am I going to keep this picture? It's because it's an editing program. It has to load all of that data each time you move from photo to photo, and that's where it slows you down. Whereas in Aftershoot, I mean, I didn't really show you this. I can pop back just to show you in a second. But this will blaze, dude. Like, look at how fast you go. And as you get comfy with your right hand on the arrow keys and your left hand on the D, you are culling pretty fast.
I
Um,
do want to add one thing about that.
Go ahead.
Can you hit caps lock for me one time and then try and
Capsule?
add caps lock, because
You-
that'll knock out your my selection. So you want to you want to make sure you're actually getting the selections. Otherwise, you might be a third of the way
You're
through the gallery.
cruising and then you haven't
Yeah.
selected anything. I have done that and that is sad. But I also want to say, like, just a little bit of feedback for Aftershoot. Can we make this selected bubble bigger, or like can we like create like a larger definitive showing that I have selected that image? Because sometimes you're right, Alex. I do get into a groove and I will
Hmm.
think I'm selecting something. And if you're moving too fast, oh, it's mad at me for a caps lock. If you're moving too fast, you might not have selected what you want.
That's
Um,
fair.
but no matter what, going back to Chris's original question, let's say you get to the editing stage in Lightroom and you're like, I'm missing one very important image. You can always come back into Aftershoot and go and grab that again. There's no way where Aftershoot is going to like delete something or like, store it away so you can't get back to it.
Chris
Good
just
question.
brought up a really good question. He said,
Go ahead.
Listening to what Britt just said, if you have a preset which you love and use as a base in Lightroom, could you edit a picture with that layer, upload it into Aftershoot, which will then pull the layer profile, cull your photographs, and put the layer on everything? You could then save the layer in Aftershoot so you don't need to copy from Lightroom each time. And then they said, if that doesn't make sense, I will reword LOL.
No, that is exactly it. Chris, that's exactly what editing is, the edit feature instead of Aftershoot will do for you. It's taking that layer, it's taking that
Uh,
generalized, go ahead, Alex.
Adjustments. The adjust.
Adjustment. That's what it is. And it's going to apply it. So why don't we go jump right into that? Because it feels like that's the next step for all of us.
Okay.
Down here, just picking up where we left off, we have our editing filter, which is where those 5-star colors, all of these things kind of come into play. What you're doing in culling inside of Aftershoot is categorizing, and you're sorting the photos. When you come into here, you're going to deselect all of those, and then you're only going to select the way that we've culled. You're going to select my selections, and that's where those 80 pictures are going to pop up. But to your point, whoever had said like, oh, I've been just 5-starring stuff, maybe your thing is that you would then select your 5 stars, or you would only select the greens. That would be the AI's cull. I mean, you can literally do it based on camera down here. If you have like a second shooter and you just want to edit their pictures or whatever, I deselect all and then I just select my selections. From here, you press edit photos, and then we're going to start that whole process over where AI is doing its thing. And this does take just a little bit of time. But in this process, Chris, it is applying that adjustment. And so this is where it saves you time, you guys. Once upon a time, we were in between preset packs. We didn't know exactly what our style was going to be yet, and we hadn't found the one. When you haven't found the one, that is truly like the hardest time as a photographer, because what you do is you come to your picture inside of Lightroom and you're like, I have to go through each of these presets, and they're all so different for different reasons. And I have to try to figure out like which one works. And then from there, you can start your adjustments and you're removing stuff and all of that. What Aftershoot is going to do for you is it's going to eliminate that decision-making process. It's going to apply your main preset, your main adjustments. And then when you get into Lightroom, you'll see it here just in a few minutes. We're just going to jump right into our edit already applied, and we're just making tweaks to perfect it. Now, the more consistent your catalogs are that you upload for your profile, the more accurate your Aftershoot edit is going to be coming out of the system. But please don't have unrealistic expectations. You're going to still be editing in Lightroom. You will still make tweaks, but you're removing that time suck that is trying to pick the right preset for the photo. Would you
And
agree with me,
sync it.
Alex?
Yeah,
Yeah, and
and
syncing it. Yes, and syncing it. I
so now
remember. Go ahead.
so now they've all been edited just
They
like
have
that.
all been edited. So now this is where I think we need to even learn more, you and I, Alex, because it does have this improved profile part. So I think I could even go back and add the catalogs, much like Imogen, and I could try to make adjustments if I notice that I'm consistently adjusting the heat a certain way, or I'm consistently doing like something in a certain way. It looks like you can come back in, select a catalog that you just worked on, and then you can readjust your profile.
Go
Okay,
back one.
I'm
Go back
trying.
one.
How do you get back? Go back? Yes. Okay, so this is my profile. So it took me all the way to my account profile.
Yeah.
You
No.
guys, this is where I can delete that. I don't need it. Bye, Cherie.
Okay,
Okay,
go back to home, relaunch Valentine's Day, click the
back in
edit
edit.
tab,
Here we are.
and now go to adjust profile. Instead of improve profile, go to adjust profile.
Aha. Cool.
This is where you can make some of those tweaks. Like maybe you're in a very green part of the year and you want to bring more pink hue to kind of balance it out.
Yep.
Or anything along that left side, the sliders you can click into and you can adjust accordingly. And then I think if you save the settings, and then it will probably reapply it.
Yeah, you could either revert to detail or to default or save settings. Great job, Alex. I love that. Okay, it looks like I can go back there, and then we've arrived. So then from here, you press review photos. It adds in like what's your one-click export. I love Lightroom Classic. I think there's so much more capability. And then here's where this is going to launch inside of Lightroom with our adjustments already applied, and then all of like the generalized things done, and then I just get to make my tweaks. But then I also get to start removing things with like generative AI. It basically like gets you where you want to go just a little bit faster. Okay, so then it's asking, this is where it's mapped. We're going to import these 80 images. So I'll open that up. It will bring over all of your color coding, but you can very simply remove your colors So for me, when I'm editing in Lightroom, I like to mark things as green when I know that they're edited and they're good to go. So I don't need Aftershoots green and all of their other colors. So press Command A, select all, right click, and then come down to color label. If you go to the bottom, you can press none, and then it will reset all of those colors. So that way you can come in and just like be looking at your stuff. And then, like I said, when I'm done editing something, I'll just press 8 to say that I'm fully edited. Now, when I edit, I don't know if you guys do this too, but it's really fun for me to pick one picture that's going to act as like my anchor, the one that's, my base. And so I'm going to click into one that feels like it could be the base for the rest of the edits. This one feels pretty good. So I'll go up to develop. And then here's where you see that profile snap into place. All of my, because if you think about it, back in the library module, this is still my raw. It still has
Yep.
that like yellowy look to it. But the moment I click into develop, that's where my profile is going to be. Here are my settings. Here are my favorite preset packs. So then to answer your question, Reagan, the one that I really loved was under the Phil Chester Essentials pack, and it's number 2. So look at how similar that is. That's why I struggle with like selling presets, because it's literally Phil's preset. I've just made like a few tweaks. This is how similar they are. I'm just like hovering over. Look how similar that is, Alex.
I'm sorry, I was reading a question.
You're good. What's your question?
So Chris said all the features you described a while ago, i.e., eyes closed, pulling out multiple faces, etc. Do you know if this works on animals? I'm moving into the equestrian sector, maybe
Wow.
something which hasn't been tested yet. Congratulations. We've had the pleasure of working with some horses before,
It's
and
fun.
I love the horse community. It's always so much fun, and that is a great question. We will definitely
Let's go look
ask.
at it. Does Aftershoot key faces recognize
Animals.
animals' eyes open? It's a great question. Oh, I
That is
forgot.
a good. Oh.
It does say no internet needed, Alex. So
Oh, okay, cool. Because I know
animal
that that was
eye
one of
AF.
them.
Oh, that's Sony. Maybe we need to watch this video later. Aftershoot secrets you need to know right now. I don't know. That's a great question. I would assume it will recognize that the eyes are open. That's going to be my guess, but I'm truly uneducated on that specific question.
Okay, so
That's cool.
I asked Reagan, who is kind of struggling to find the right preset. She said, especially when she's living in Colorado, where it can be 65 and sunny today and snowing tomorrow, it's
Yes.
making it so hard to create a profile to edit with.
Yep.
So then I asked her how she would describe her photography style, her posing and prompting, and this is what she said. She said, I would say more light and airy, but I really don't know. I'm more true to color, but I usually add a warmer hue to them. So I'm just struggling to find something that will align throughout all the seasons.
Yeah. What I will say, do you mind if I jump in right there, Alex?
Go ahead.
What I will say is you are going to love Phil Chester Essentials Pack ESP2. And the reason I know this definitively is Alex and I do spend a lot of time vacationing in Colorado. And every time we go, we take pictures. And what we love is this as our base for our Colorado edits, because Colorado has very unique green, very unique
Yeah.
blue, bright skies. The sun comes out and everything could be completely different. Plus,
Yep.
if you're not in like a lush part of Colorado, you're in the desert part of Colorado. And that's a whole different bag of browns and greens and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think that if I'm going to like be an advocate for any preset pack out there, I recommend Phil Chester Essentials ESP2. And then the biggest thing is make your tweaks based on your season and always know that snow is going to look different than grass. So me personally, I might not even use ESP2 during snowy shoots. I might just come up with just my own edit for snow shoots because it is such a unique element to deal with. It's so much brighter. There's blues because the snow just can feel a little blue sometimes.
Yeah.
So my recommendation is definitely that preset pack that if you get really decisive about what preset base your pictures will have, you'll notice that you can very subtly build off of that. But what sucks is all these preset packs, it doesn't suck, but it's challenging as a newer editor having so many decisions. There's so many differences between all of these different presets. So my advice would be to pick one that feels close to true to life. I feel like ESP2 is really good for just like a very timeless color and, whatever edit, and then you can make your adjustments from there. Try not to choose a bunch of different presets because it can get really overwhelming.
She said she did one snow shoot and she didn't like it because of the editing.
It's so much different. So first, that was my other part. So definitely pick one preset and try to roll with it. But then when it comes to things like snowshoots, I would recommend trying your best to learn Lightroom enough that you can come up with your own preset when it comes to snow. For me, it's mostly just learning like the temperature up here. Do you want it to be warmer or colder? It's blacks and whites. You can play around with the other things, of course, but truly, if you play with your blacks and whites, like that'll tell you where you're going to go, and you can obviously see it along the way. And then from there, this is one really random editing tip that I found really helpful for snow. Underneath color mixer, you have mixer and you have point color, and then you have your HSL sliders, which stand for hue, saturation, and luminance. This is just related to color, and when you click on each of those, the hue is exactly what it sounds like. It's the hue of that red, the hue of the orange. So this red hue is pretty bright and pretty intense. Let's say that I wanted it to look more orange. I wanted the hue to be closer to orange. Click that little tiny circle with the little arrows up and down, bring it to that color, and then you can click and you can either bring the hue up, which will then make it more orange. And if you notice the sliders on the right, now I'm going down, the sliders are moving and it's changing the hue. This is like kind of like a color isolator, and it works really well for saturation. If you click on the little colors isolator, whatever this little nubby guy is called,
What is he called?
what is his name? He but he's so helpful for snowshoots because let's say the person in the picture is wearing a really cool scarf, and let's say that color scarf is red and it's so intense compared to the blue snow and the blue trees and all this stuff. You can grab that, you can go to saturation, click on the color red, and you can just bring down and isolate that one color. Be subtle, right? You don't want to desaturate color so it looks weird. But if you ever feel like something's really distracting you in a photo, I usually am going to hang out here in the color mixer. As much as people say you need to learn the tone curve, I don't think you need to learn it as much as you need to learn how to manipulate color, either like desaturating it so it's not so aggressive, or honoring it in a way that feels really vibrant. I don't know. That's just my hot take.
Plus, most presets have a tone curve adjustment built in.
Right.
So
When
that's
I
kind
first
of
started
the
learning Lightroom, this felt really overwhelming. It felt like there was so many ways I could mess it up. Yeah. So anyway, I spent a lot of time in Color Mixer, and I spent a lot of time just hanging out in these little sliders. Back to my aftershoot edits, though. Great questions, Reagan. I really wish you well. It's a little different. The colors are very different. It's same thing for Arizona. If you've ever been to Arizona, that is a challenge. When you have color cast from like Red Rock, oof, yeesh.
So
But
Liv has a question
go
about
ahead, Liv.
presets, if you're okay with that.
Absolutely.
So she was asking, when people say to pick a preset. Oh, sorry. I have a preset pack of 8 variations with about 3 I primarily use. When
Nice.
people say to pick a preset, do they mean literally just one, e.g., one of the 8 in my preset pack and use throughout all seasons and areas, etc.?
Great question. Liv, this is where you get to have fun, right? You're an artist. And if you are ever in a gallery and you're like, I feel like this one preset that I chose isn't serving me or serving the colors, you can always choose different presets. But I will give you the advice after years and years of trying to make a bunch of different presets work. When you give yourself less to decide, your editing gets more streamlined. It gets faster. It becomes more consistent. I do love giving the advice. I would have given myself this advice had um younger and less or more stubborn Brittany listened. I would have told her the exact same thing I'm saying to you, which is the moment you can choose one, it makes everything easier because then it feels like you don't have as much decision fatigue. But like I said, you can always go and work with other presets if the one you chose isn't working for that specific day. Every shoot, every time you pick up your camera, the light is different, the colors are different. So what I found with Phil Chester presets, specifically ESP2, I kind of feel like I'm like pushing it on you guys. Sorry. But what I'm telling you is it made me love editing again because I didn't feel like I was dreading having to choose the colors and for it to work. And is it going to work? And So anyways, find one that sets your soul on fire, and then have a couple backups in case things aren't going the way you want in any individual gallery. But I do give that advice now, like pick one. It will definitely help. It will definitely help. It's a good question.
Phil is just so consistent.
It's so easy. Like for me, especially because we love the true to life, we love the natural colors. I don't want to spend so much time battling color the way that I was when I was working with the Biba vowel presets. She's put out many, many packs since I was working with her stuff. So like it truly could be much better now.
And
But
again, we're talking primarily about weddings, which
yes,
is where it's legacy, it's timeless.
yeah.
We
For the
don't
most part,
want,
people want like the authentic colors that they chose.
if you
Um,
just love doing stylized cinematic sessions, your editing is going to look
Go
very
off,
different.
queen. Slay,
Yeah.
king. Like, do your thing. But when it comes to like, I want to spend less time editing and less time at my computer, and I really want to spend more time creating. I felt like streamlining the editing process really boiled down to finding the preset that I could always rely on. For the most part, it's still like, what do you think, Alex? Like 90% of the time I can rely on Phil.
Yeah.
Phil, Phil,
Phil,
Phil,
Phil,
Phil.
Phil. We've got a question in the chat from Dylan, and it says,
What's up, Dylan?
What's your advice on developing your editing style when every shoot is different? Some nature, some city,
Yep.
indoors, outdoors, day, evening. I have a hard time getting them to look good together on my grid and not random.
I think the first thing that I notice about inconsistencies with edits could be contrast. So really see if you can like be consistent about your contrast. That's probably the first place that's going to help you to unlock consistency, because if you're thinking landscape, you might want to go high contrast. You want to bring out the dramatic, edges of the architecture or whatever. But then you go into nature and you're like, that doesn't look as good with trees and things like that. So my opinion is really be careful about your contrast. And then from there, I want you to just give yourself permission to not let your Instagram feed control your art. You do not need a consistent feed for your editing to look amazing or for your work to be cohesive. For me, it really comes down to I want you to look at each individual gallery and I want you to honor the colors and the light that are naturally present. It might not all line up together on an Instagram feed, and that's totally fine. But when you're looking at one single photo or one single gallery, I should say, how can I serve this gallery the best I possibly can? How can I honor the true colors, the true light, and allow like what's naturally present there to guide you? But that's for like my timeless kind of color graders, if that's what we're gonna call it. If you are a super stylized person who you want to have this like very unique editing style, you will find more struggle because you're constantly trying to make different shoots and different things fit into one bucket essentially. And so your options, you have a couple. You could again just let it go. Let it go, not be worried about consistency on a feed, or you would niche down and you would only be focusing on primarily capturing and posting the one thing or a couple of things that you want to call in. So like if landscape lights you up, focus on landscape. If like portraits and people light you up, focus on that. Go ahead, Alex.
I was just going to add something to that, and I was going to say that sometimes if there's just inconsistency between the lighting scenario that you're creating in, it could make it harder to match as well. And I
Mhm.
know we don't always have as much control as we wish we had. Like, hey, I really want this in my background of the photo. Okay, well, it's not the best light, but that's what you have to work with.
Right.
Those are tricky situations, but you are the ambassador of light. So just
You
remind
are.
your clients that, hey, this is what I do. So we're going to look for some open shade. We're going to find the
Yes.
spots that are a controlled exposure throughout the entire frame. We're going to go where the light meets the shadow. We're going to find that spot. So I would say try to emphasize that a little bit. But I loved what you said as well. So we have Lauren who is sharing something in the chat, and she's saying, I use the most recent. Is it Biba or Beba? Is it Biba or Beba?
Someone let us know. I keep
Someone
saying,
tell me,
I
please.
think Biba. Biba? I like Biba. Let's do Biba.
Okay, so I used the most recent Biba Pack 3, where she's now living in Hawaii, I think. And okay, go off. And I appreciate her
Casual
attention to
flex.
greens, casual flex, as it's like 30 degrees. Okay. And I appreciate her attention to greens in that pack for the crazy seasonal greens we see here in the Midwest. Oh, I
Yes.
hear you. I hear you. We are Midwest babies, and the
Yeah,
greens in summer are wild. Where are you at, Lauren? So she says, much more true. I think true to life, probably.
that's awesome.
Not all the warmth she used to have.
Yeah, we were rocking Biba Pack 1, and then what happened was our skies looked almost teal blue, and then the greens were giving yellow. So for a long time I was battling color so much that I was so frustrated. I was like, is it me? Am I doing something wrong?
I
And
gotta
then
walk away.
I gotta walk away right now. But also, when I look back on that time, I didn't know as much about light, like you're saying, Alex. So it was for a while, I was like, am I not properly exposing things? Am I capturing color in a weird way? I also have to share that colors are subjective to your camera body, too, you guys.
That's
Like
so
if
true.
you're shooting Sony or Nikon or Canon, if you're shooting a base level Canon versus the highest end Canon, your colors are going to look different. So not one preset pack will work with everything. So you're right. I should say I do work with the Canon R3 now, and Philchester ESP2 and Canon R3 are just like buddies. They're
Yeah.
besties. So like what
So,
you're working with, it's Lauren, right? That's who we're talking to.
yes.
Lauren, if what preset pack do you love? You said number 3, and then what is your camera body?
Okay, so Lauren responded and she said she's in Indiana and Ohio.
Sweet.
Reagan wants to know if we shoot in Kelvin.
We do shoot in Kelvin, but it is the easiest thing to fix in post. That's just the temperature up here under white balance.
Hmm.
So it's not something that if it stresses you out having to learn Kelvin, I love to give the advice to set that to auto white balance. But I love Kelvin because when it comes to shooting outside at golden hour or just like outside for portraits, like Alex mentioned, we will go to open shade. Open shade is the best lighting scenario you can have when you're
Yes.
taking portraits outside. So open shade is very simply you have a light source and there's something diffusing that light source, and you place your subjects in the shadow of that thing, but you place them in the shadow close enough to the edge where the shadow and the light begin on the ground. And so what happens is you get this even lighting scenario. And when you're in shadows, things look cooler. Things look almost blue. If I on my camera don't adjust my Kelvin, the blue can be really distracting for me. And because Alex and I started working with video in the last couple of years, it's a lot better to create something that looks great out of camera. Straight out of camera is what it's called. So that's where we really got into the practice of changing our Kelvin, because if I'm in that shadow and I want to just warm things up so I can see what they're going to look like, it helps me to get more, just get more focused and not as distracted by like just how blue things are. And then for video, you really can't, especially if you're shooting in 1080p instead of 4K, if you can't make a ton of color adjustments after the fact in post,
You
it's
want to
better.
get it right.
You want to get right out of camera. So I do love giving the advice. If it's scary, go auto. But if you have the capacity, it's really easy to learn. It's just like, do you want it to be warmer or do you want it to be cooler? It's just one more thing to decide. And it's not like when you're outside at sunset, it's not like you're changing your Kelvin as much as you're changing your other settings. It really can be something where you get to the shoot a little bit early, you go to some of the spots you would want to take your couple, and you set your Kelvin. You probably won't need to set it again during that specific shoot.
Yeah, so I would just like to share, like, okay, you just got to a new space. One really good base point is just 5,000 Kelvin. Just
Yeah.
like pop that in, and if you're outside, there's natural light. That'll probably look really good. You might have to bring it up 500 or down 500, but
I
that's a good place
personally
to start.
love 7,000 Kelvin at night, because I think someone said this earlier about their editing style. I love natural colors, but I do like them to be just a little bit warmer. I am not an orange girly like we once saw in like the super boho era of
Yep.
photography editing. I don't
Yep.
go that hard, but I do think that a lot of the feedback we get about our editing style is people love the warm and happy and sunshine vibe that the colors give. It doesn't feel cold. It doesn't feel like there's like a lack of warmth. People like that. So it's something that I do tend to shoot a little bit warmer for Calvin. I typically, my base would be 6, Alex. I know that you shoot a little bit cooler for video because video takes skin color and can do some wild things with it. So Alex has to be much more careful. Whereas me for photos, I kind of live around 6 to 7,000 Kelvin most
So
shoots.
Lauren responded. She shoots
Yes.
with Sony, which is a
Okay.
different brand than Biba uses. But
Yes.
maybe that's what gets me more of a true result than even what she's going for.
That's funny. You never know. I think that's one of the main things I've always struggled with beyond the idea that I'm like stealing Phil's preset and then making it my own and then selling it. I often struggle with this whole concept of these are all different camera bodies. Like I might think
Yeah.
this preset looks amazing and I start selling it and then I'm like, poor Sony shooters, like that's gonna look so different.
Yeah. Chris said, 100% agree with Britt. Too many people get concerned about consistency. I practice on our walks, so I have a mix. Chris, are you from England? I just noticed that you using an S in your practice. Let us know
I
where
like
you're from. I
oh yeah,
yes,
I'm gonna shout out
UK.
you guys.
Yes,
Oh
yes,
fun. We've
UK.
got international friends.
Manchester. Oh my God. Thank you so much for
Cool.
joining us. Okay, I practice on our walks, so I have a mix of landscape, indoors, pubs mostly. Do you remember Danny and Andrea's pub shoot?
Yes,
Uh,
pubs.
so I have a mix of landscape, indoors, pubs mostly, water, nature. I set basic presets to match each
That's cool.
contrast. So during my initial editing, I would highlight all my landscape pictures and apply one layer, my landscape layer. It's a
Nice.
great starting point for all different kinds of contracts. I think you meant contrast, maybe. I now have 14 different starter presets. So
That's awesome.
that's exactly it right there.
I like that. The way
Yeah.
that I like to look at building, this goes back to Dylan's question. How do you go about building a consistent style? Dylan, I want you to, and anyone who's interested in my take, I want you to think 10 years down the line. We're creating content that lasts forever for the most part, with obviously like data corruption in mind. Like this is never going anywhere. So I like to edit now in a
We
way
don't
that
say that.
we don't say that. We don't say that. So like this data is safe forever and always, but it's going to live forever. And I want to edit in a way that feels timeless because I want to go back to these pictures in this time in our life. And I want the colors to feel the way that they felt at that time. So when it comes to building a consistent style, the easiest way that I have found is just go with what's naturally present. That way I'm not battling things. I'm just thinking in the future, like, how will I want to look back on this edit? Is this going to be a timeless representation of what was real? That's just my take on consistency. But you can choose one style and just stick with it if it sets your soul on fire. But
Britt,
there's not that big of a deal with consistency. It's
I
art. It's
just
all subjective.
it's all art. Britt, I just got an email from Aftershoot from Justin, and he said that new retouching, build, and installation packages are coming.
Stop.
So we're so
Justin. Justin's
close.
the
We're so
CEO of
close.
Aftershoot.
We're
That's
so
so cool.
close.
What a great email. Great timing, my friend.
Thank you,
Okay.
Justin.
So you guys pause here for a second. I want to conclude. I want to make a little conclusion on this part, and then we can just like hang out and ask questions. We'll answer as many as you guys have. But to finalize this is what your edit looks like after shoot. You'll notice over here on the left, your history is now just import. Whereas in the past, if I were to apply presets, it would have all of that preset history. Excuse me.
Do you
And
want to
so,
share your screen?
oh wow, I'm not sharing my screen.
It's okay. You're good. Just add it in.
What have we been looking at, you guys?
Just you.
That's so funny.
Your lighting is so good. I love all your plants.
Oh, thanks. It was a water your plants day, so things are going very well.
They look happy. Yeah.
Okay, here it is. I had to go back to that. Sorry about that, guys. This whole time I was like, you guys are looking at my preset packs. I was like showing you my preset packs.
No, it was showing it for all that, but then once we kind of jumped off, maybe like 5 minutes ago, it went away.
Okay, cool. Well, then looping back for a second to Reagan's point, I was just going to show you like this is what our aftershoot edit looks like, and then this is Phil's number 2. Like that is so subtle, such a subtle difference. Okay, but anyways, yeah. And so now over here on the right is where all of your settings and everything are. So then please tell me, Alex, when I was showing like the nubby guide, like you guys could
Yeah,
see my
everybody saw that. Yep.
Oh, thank goodness. That would have been so embarrassing.
Embarrassing.
Yikes. But back at this, we've got all of our colors pretty much adjusted. And so from here, I think and then that's what I was saying is over here is where your history typically is when you enter. When you start editing and you add a preset, you would start seeing this history fill up, whereas now it just says import. And then over here is your snapshot, which is like your aftershoot edit. From here is where you just make your tweaks. So let's say I love everything about this, but I just want to start jumping in and adding in, my masks, or I want to use generative AI to remove stuff. I really feel like this is such an awesome way for Aftershoot to save you time, because looking at this picture, you guys, it's almost a one-click edit. Obviously, you can still make little adjustments, but for the most part, I'm like, that's a fire edit. I'm good. I'm done. I'm moving on. And then you keep going. You go through all of your pictures. You make your final selections. Cull out what you don't want. If you guys remember when I set up our editing profile, I did have on the crop. So this is the subtle, not aggressive AI crop. And then it also has done my adjustments for like the transform, but you could still, if you wanted, try to like straighten it out a little bit more. It's just fun that Aftershoot applies your preset, applies your layer. I like the way that Chris said it, and then you just get to make your subtle adjustments. So in my opinion, Aftershoot will absolutely save you time. It'll save you time not having to decide what preset to add. It'll save you time with the decisiveness on culling, but it is still a program that you're working in. You're not editing. It's not like you just suddenly have like someone who's going to do it all for you. So if you really feel like one thing you are calling in this year is maybe investing in an editing team or retouchers that you want to come in and do all of this, like, this little nitty gritty work for you, I would highly recommend that. I think that's a beautiful way for you to get back more of your time. And then your workflow is very simply, you do everything that we did today. You do the culling, you do the Aftershoot edit, you apply that edit when you have your profile set up. And then what ends up happening is you would build this as a catalog, export it as a catalog, I should say. And then you would be sending your catalog off to your retouchers. They would make those changes. Let's say you tell them your best practices are, I want all of the men's shirts, especially for weddings, to be white and not blue. And I want all of my ladies' hair to not be super frizzy. I want you to remove the flyaways. If you ever see a microphone, you remove that and then send it back to me. And so in the future, maybe if you're paying editors, you can be reviewing those changes that they made. And so that ultimately is definitely the way to save time on editing. Build into your contracts, especially for wedding work, that investment of an editor, but utilize AI to like get things going for you. Okay, that's the end of my presentation on Aftershoot. I'm open to questions, ideas, anything that you guys might want to take away from this call today that we haven't talked about already.
Reagan just had a great question. Thank you for
Yeah, go
asking
ahead.
this. Once you import a wedding into Lightroom, do you put them into separate orders based on the different parts of the day? Getting
Great
ready, first looks, etc. How do you typically organize it all?
We used to organize our data that way, but what we have found now with Aftershoot, because you kind of it's basically how your brain works. Whatever makes you feel the most organized and the most productive is what you should do. We used to do sections, but now what we do is we just edit the whole day inside of Lightroom once it comes over. I do have a friend named Georgia who taught me that she's GM Visions, or what are they now? GM Photo and Video? Photo and Anyway, Georgia and Micah, they taught me in Lightroom you can create smart collections. And that's one way for you to kind of section out the parts of the day. So that way you don't have to ever sit down and just look at the full day that you have to edit, but you can work on one section at a time.
Which is helpful if for some reason you have a lot of enhancing that you have to do for noise, like a lot of denoise, because it's going to create that separate file.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want it to get lost.
Yes. So I definitely would recommend using smart collections. We just learned about that after our wedding season concluded. So we'll see, Alex. Maybe that's one way we do it this year. But up until this point, we've just had the whole day on our Lightroom, timeline, so to speak, and then we would work our way through. Alex is one of those unique editors who can sit down and edit chronologically. I, however, need to bounce around a little. If I've been in ceremony too long, I'm heading to that dance floor just for a little reprieve. So just edit in whatever way feels the most productive.
Okay, so she responded and said, I've tried that and it made me so confused. So
Yeah.
did you try to make the separate collections and that was confusing, or was having it all on the bottom more confusing for you to bounce around like that?
Let's see if we can do that together, Alex, because I wouldn't mind learning something new as well. Let me see if I can
I,
go
lo-
back to sharing my screen.
I love learning.
I love learning. Okay. Also, if you guys are heading out, before you go, drop in the chat one thing that you felt was like really, really helpful from today. Like if it was like the big takeaway that you're like, that was worth it. I would love to know what was most helpful, because when it comes to things like this, you never really know what is the, that little aha moment for people. So I love to learn that. It feels like that 5-star bit was an aha moment. So that was cool.
Lauren has a really great question.
Okay, go ahead.
She says, I usually have a filmy vibe edit on direct flash
Cool.
reception photos compared to more true color for the rest of the day. Would
Yep.
Aftershoot see that difference and put that in my one profile if I gave it my whole gallery? Or would I need to separate out photos for different profiles, if that makes sense? That does make sense, Lauren.
That does make sense. And I would say you would use Aftershoot profile to be like your traditional edit, because it sounds like that's just like the one place where you do like a super filmy vibe. And then what you would do inside of Lightroom, this is just my initial thought, is you would then apply your film preset and then sync that through the dance floor.
But it might work. If you do all of your flash photos like that, it might pick up on that.
You're right. I don't know for sure if AI could notice the difference. My fear, though, is if you make a profile, it kind of is giving like what we went through with Imogen. If your profile includes catalogs that have things from like all over the place, presets that are all over the place, it might just make this one like hodgepodge preset or profile that could feel, like kind of like a mixture of the film and the regular. And so you might have like your regular edits from like the earlier part of the day have a little filmy edge to it.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of like the cleanest way to do it. And I personally would do one kind of clean profile.
I think you're right.
But then now that you mention it, Lauren, you might even struggle to create your profile because you have your whole Lightroom catalog, including preset stuff from early in the day where it's timeless, and then later in the night when it's filmy. So you might actually make like a separate catalog for your film, make a film Aftershoot profile, and then you would make a separate one for like your regular shoots and stuff. Because do you do your film on regular sessions? Like, do you just add a couple of fun filmy ones? That's what I would do, is maybe like make 2 different ones, but then you would have to have 2 different albums, and you would be creating a new folder for your film stuff on the dance floor, and you would apply that profile to that folder and then the other profile to the main folder. Did that make sense?
I think I followed that. Yeah.
You'd have to separate it out.
She said not really, just mostly there's a little difference with direct flash.
Exactly, same. So then I would stick with the original thing I said. I would do my main profile on the whole gallery, keep it clean, and then I would apply my film preset inside of Lightroom once you're there. But then again, be very careful when you go to upload your catalogs for your profile. Maybe primarily focus on your session work, since you know that there's not those film presets in there, because all that Aftershoot is doing with your profile is it's taking a catalog full of fully edited images and it's noticing what are your settings over here on the right. And that's what it's putting into the profile. It's baking it in. So if you have a bunch of wedding catalogs that have both film and regular, you might run into some of those inconsistencies. Let's talk about smart collections for a second.
Okay, that's a great segue, because Reagan responded and said, yes, and trying to figure out if I had all the images in that one folder, then I would go to export and didn't have them in there. So I would go back to the original collection, get all mixed up, and just making it way more confusing. And then she said she has ADD, so she needs organization. Like I would be missing.
How fun. Perfect. Let's assume that, and we're going to learn live time, so this might be clunky, but let's play with it. Let's assume these first 20 photos are getting ready pictures from the wedding day, and that's the collection I want to create. I'm going to select them, control, I think it's go to collection, or do I do create quick collection? It's something right here. It's this collection. So I could create collection set. Okay. Name, let's say that this is wedding day. And then inside collection set, smart collections, create. So then now that'll pop up, wedding day. And then inside of here, I can create a collection. This would be my getting ready. And it's going to be inside of the collection set. This would be like the couple's wedding day. So let's say it's Bailey and Zach. And then I would create. And then now, so that's there, getting ready. So then let's go back to our library. I lost my place. Where is it? Right here. And then again, the first 20 images are going into my getting ready. So I could either drag it and drop it. And then there's those 20. I didn't lose them. They're still here in my overall folder, which is mapped to my desktop. But
Right.
now I can just look at my getting ready ones. And so this would be helpful for Lauren, because then if you wanted to edit with these collections, you could do your film stuff later at the end of the night. And then what Georgia taught me, which I thought was super valuable, is let's say inside of this collection of 20 images, let's say that these 2 pictures are kind of redundant. I only need 1. I can kind of cull inside of my smart collection. And then when I go to export, I think, who was just asking about smart collections, Alex? Was that Liv or was
Reagan.
that Reagan? So Reagan. So let's say I culled out like 6 images or whatever. I command delete, and I can remove that from the current collection. Then I'm only exporting 19 images for my getting ready section of the day, but I never deleted them out of my main 80. That is the coolest part of collections that Georgia taught me, is like, because what she does with Aftershoot, actually, they will just bring over the images right from Aftershoot, and then she'll do this smart collection, and she will cull inside of the smart collection. And then that is how she kind of keeps things organized, but it never will delete it from the 80 that you originally imported. So here, let's just test the theory. Oh, I'm kind of nervous. Do you think it'll work, Alex?
Okay, Chris is heading out. Thanks for spending some time in your afternoon with us. We appreciate you. And he said that they're going to be trying out Aftershoot. So good luck to you. Cheers, mate.
Oh, amazing. I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you for spending your time with us. And if you would like, we do have a little promo code of Chasing Sunset. This is for everybody. If you want to use that at checkout, you can get a 15% discount. It would help to support Alex and I. But either way, I'm just so happy for you. Aftershoot is so cool.
Yes. So Dylan wanted to know, was your Valentine's shoot natural light since you used the interval timer? Would you just use an LED panel if there's not enough natural light?
Yeah, we had natural light as our main light source, and then we have a softbox, which I'm actually using right now. It's just like a little tiny softbox that we had in the corner that was like blasting the shadows that were coming off of the non-window wall. Because we live in one of those apartments where it's only one wall of direct light coming in one direction, so we use the softbox to kind of balance it in the other direction. But that's why we had to slow our shutter speed down so much, because we weren't using a flash. Now that I think about it, Alex, we do have time for maybe like a couple more questions, but then we have to go get poor Bug. We put our little puppy dog outside so that way he would be
okay. Reagan said, now I think that's why I get so lost, because I'll forget which photos I added to the collection and they will still be at the bottom with the rest of the gallery. So basically I'm just going back and forth.
I personally
I feel you on that. Yeah.
That is so funny. I don't use the smart collections, but I might this year. We'll see. But when it comes to staying organized, I do need to just like look at the pictures in the one line. And then what I would do for the different sections of the day is I would like start at 1, and let's say 1 through 39 is getting ready. I would just export that. And then I would know I have to start on 40, go to the next part of the section for, the ceremony or whatever. The collections can get wild.
It also has to do with kind of how we deliver the gallery, and it changes for each wedding, as I'm sure you know already. But normally we do like a before the ceremony, after the ceremony, reception, and sunset. Is that pretty much?
That's absolutely right, Alex. And sometimes it might even be like I might just do getting ready for the client facing side of it instead of like before the ceremony. But in my brain, it's anything that happened before the ceremony. And then let's say when you get to, because let's say you're in a couple of spots getting all of that goodness, and then you finally get to like the spot where the ceremony is going to be, and you take a few establishing shots of the area. That's where I'm going to start ceremony. And then it's basically that till the last of family photos. So I'll do ceremony and family photos together. And then I'll just do a big bucket of like formal photos and then reception, just because we used to do so many sections and that got really overwhelming. So I felt like doing it in that chronological order and just kind of adding everything into one area was good enough organization that people haven't complained. So that's cool. But it is mostly just like somewhere between 3 and 4 collections before the ceremony and family photos. Maybe like formal portrait time if you have like all of the bridal party, all of the bride and or the wedding couple, and then the reception, which is basically like speeches, dinner, dance floor, boom. Maybe less sections is the way to do it. So do you guys want to take a family photo before we go? Any other questions? Anything else we could help with?
Oh, this is another great question. Reagan said, do you send your galleries directly from Lightroom? Oh,
I have
okay.
seen that people do that. That is definitely one way. We love Pass Gallery and we also love Pick Time. So it depends on what gallery delivery service you have. If it's not something that you currently have, you can absolutely send it right from Lightroom. But I like the presentation element of Pass Gallery or Pick Time, or I think Unscripted even has gallery service as well. It feels user friendly and it feels like it gives them this like moment to really take in their gallery as they scroll through. And then it often, both of those that I mentioned are connected to print labs. So it can often lead to like fun print sales for people if they wanted to order that kind of thing right away. But it's
Awesome.
something you have to pay for. So it's personal preference. There's no wrong way to do it.
Liv uses Pixie Set, and so does Reagan.
Awesome. That's cool. Does Pixie Set have a print lab associated with it?
Yes.
That's so cool. Gosh, how fun.
I love how they're also streamlined.
Yeah. So you can see me right now, Alex, on my little mic. I'm gonna take a picture of what I can see. Can you take a picture of what you can see? Because I want like a big smiley photo for the Instagram story, but it's just showing me my profile picture.
Are you serious?
Yeah, this entire time I really. All right, everyone, smile. Oh, this has been so fun. I am so grateful that you joined. Thank you so much for all of the quality questions, Reagan and Liv, and who else we got?
Lauren,
Dylan,
Dylan,
Chris.
Chris.
Yes, this has been so much fun. And truly, please always reach out if you have any questions after shoot or otherwise. Alex and I love helping in any way we can.
And if you guys enjoyed this, let us know if you want us to do something else like this for
Yeah.
maybe a different topic, or if you want us to dive deep into the after shoot editing, and soon it'll be the retouching. That'll be
Yeah,
really
that would be
exciting.
very fun.
Let
Oh,
us know.
and if it feels good, take a photo of us if you can see us and post that to your story and just like tag us. That would be so cool. Tell us how today made you feel and if it was
Yes.
helpful.
Liv said you guys are amazing and adorbs. Love you both. Thank you
Oh, love
guys.
you too. Have a
Um,
wonderful rest of your day, everyone. And I'll be sending out the replay link. So if you really truly would love to come back and visit anything, you will have access to that.
Reagan just invited us to Colorado.
I'm on my way. Like I'm packing my bag right now. I hope you meant that.
Please. Can we go to
Oh,
Colorado?
gosh, I can't wait.
Liv wants us to meet up in Minnesota. I've been inviting you. All right, hit us up if you guys want to get together. That sounds amazing. Oh my
Wow, I'm
god.
so happy you learned so much. Oh, you guys. All right,
Thank you
sending lots
guys.
of love.
Have a
Bye-bye.
great day.
This is great.